Hello everyone, it's me Jamie and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be doing one of my favourite videos to do, which I have only get to do once every year, and that is my favourite books that I read in 2020. I've selected about 10 books and honestly, I didn't really have a certain way of selecting them based on rating or anything. I literally just went through all the books that I read in 2020 and the ones that called out to me were the ones that I picked. I'm not going to be going in any particular order, and because there's 10 of them I'm not going to be talking about them all in too much detail, so let's just get started. The first book I want to talk about is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I read this around August or September and I absolutely fell in love. This is such a harrowing and dark story, but something that is so necessary, I find, and a subject matter that was told so well. Basically, this story is about a girl who has a relationship with her teacher at her boarding school when she's 15. And it's essentially just about her being groomed by this older man, and we also follow her in the beginning stages with and seeing the actual relationship develop when she's 15, and then also about 20 years later, maybe even less than that, where she's an adult woman now and another ex-student of this teacher has come out and accused him of rape and grooming and pedophilia, and she kind of has to deal with her own feelings about that and also her own denial as well, because there's just this really heartbreaking passage where she says if she doesn't have this tragic star-crossed lovers romance story, then what does she have? Which I just found was so intense and so sad and so important, because sometimes I feel yeah, maybe that is what these kids who are influenced by these older men believe, that it is actually a love story and that they're in love when really it's pedophilia. This book was incredibly powerful, obviously a really intense subject matter, but I think the author handled it so delicately and so accurately, and while it was kind of a little bit of an unreliable narrator because we hear it all entirely from the girl's point of view, and she's very much romanticizing this relationship and not seeing it for what it is. The author herself didn't romanticize the relationship, and it was really easy to see that our poor 15-year-old girl was very much being preyed upon. I do just want to say kind of an intense trigger warning for rape. There is on-page rape and coercion, and it's not very nice to read about, but I think the author handled it really well and it was done in a way that wasn't gratuitous. Yeah, that's something to be very cautious of when going in, but this book was just really good and I think such an important read. The next book I want to talk about that was a favourite in 2020 is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. If you saw my most recent wrap up, you'll see me talking about this book. But this is basically just an adult fantasy about a girl who goes to a military academy and she studies to become a warrior or a warlord, and when she's there she discovers that she is a shaman and she can use the powers of gods that have been given to her. Halfway through her studies, a war breaks out in her country and she has to fight this war along with her classmates. So this book has a lot of military and political intrigue. While it is initially set in an academy, which seems like something that's kind of fun and easy to read, it does then turn into a full-scale war, and it continues like that for the rest of the series. I just thought this fantasy was so rich and complex with history and characters and so much intense stuff that goes on. It's really hard for me to explain it, but it's just so good. In my December wrap up I did leave some resources down below for The Poppy War. I left a blog post from Read by Tiffany who talked about all the rich history of Asia that you need to know before going into this book, and also a live show from the Subtle Asian Book Club where they discussed this book in a lot more depth. So I definitely recommend going and checking out those links. Honestly, I just cannot wait to finish this series. I've since read the second book and I just have the third and final book to read, and I can't wait because this book was just incredible and it made me get back into fantasy. I just thought the characters and the plot was amazing, and the world that R.F. Kuang built was just so good. Writing style also amazing, also weirdly funny, the sense of humour behind the banter was incredible. So yeah, I definitely recommend this for someone who's feeling not that good about fantasy. This is a really good book and it just got me back into that genre. The next book that was a favourite of 2020 is Foul is Fair by Hannah Capin. I've talked about this book a bit on my channel because I just loved it so much, but this is a retelling of Macbeth. It is a YA contemporary / thriller, I think. It is about a girl who gets raped by a group of boys at a party, and so she gathers her and her friends to seek revenge. on this boy and kill them all. It's just such an amazing retelling. I could see the parallels so easily and I just really loved it. It was really easy to read despite the subject matter, and like so well written, and the characters are so fleshed out, and all the twists and turns had me so shook. So yeah, very much loved this. It's not for everyone, like a lot of people gave it some pretty bad reviews, but I just really liked it, and I thought that its ruthlessness in its portrayal of like murder and these characters was just incredible. So very much recommend this. The next book I want to talk about that I read in 2020 was From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is a adult romance between two opposing figure skaters that hate each other, but because they're both really good, they decide to partner up for the doubles competition, and they have to like train together for a long time, and then they just fall in love. It is slow burn enemies to lovers excellence. It's just so good. The characters were amazing. This book was pretty long. I think it was around 500 pages, which for a romance is really long, but like so worth it because their relationship at the end was amazing. And it also had a lot of like family drama and other stuff going on, and like our main character Jasmine being really insecure with where she is at in her life and her career. And I really love romances that just have a whole lot of stuff going on, not to do with just the relationship that blossoms as well. So I really liked it, and I cannot recommend it enough for like a beginner romance. It's also like not super smut heavy, which, you know, doesn't really matter to me. Like, I don't mind smut at all, but like I know that for some people they might be a little bit worried to jump into the romance genre when it comes to like graphic sex scenes, so this is a really good place to start. There's only like one at the end, so absolutely adored this, and I just loved the yearning and the angst, and I can't recommend this enough. The next book that I want to talk about that was a favourite in 2020 was Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. This is a YA urban fantasy set in Seoul, Korea. It follows our main character Mi Young, who is a gumiho, which is a nine-tailed fox that devours the souls of men, but she also has like a human form. Basically, to help her own conscience, Mi Young only kills men who she sees doing bad things. But one night she stumbles upon a young teenage boy called Ji-hoon who is being murdered by a goblin, and she saves him, but because of that she's had to reveal herself to him. So now they start this relationship with him being in the know about her abilities and her real life. It has so many fun like K-drama tropes. Also, Mi Young's relationship with her mother is really scary. So yeah, I don't know, it was just so good and such a refreshing take on an urban fantasy. I've never read anything like this. Kat Cho has described the world of the story so well, and I think the characters were amazing, and I cannot wait to read the companion novel which follows outside characters who were so fun. And yeah, I just thought this was a really well told story, and I really loved it. The next favourite that I want to talk about in 2020 was The Bride Test by Helen Huang, which is an adult romance. This follows a boy called Kai who has autism, and his mother goes off to Vietnam to find him a bride, and she brings back Esme, our other main character, and she forces Esme to live with Kai. And Esme's like so willing to do that because she wants to move to America and have a better life for her and her child because she's a single mother. And so Kai and Esme reluctantly fall in love with each other, and it's just so sweet. I loved these characters so much. This was the first Helen Huang book that I've read, and I just know that immediately she's become an author for me. This was just such a fun and like beautiful book, and again, there was just like so much going for it beyond just the development of the relationship. Esme's whole situation with being really poor back in Vietnam and just needing to go and like get a better life, and then there's this moment where Kai and Esme have like a falling out, and Esme decides that she, instead of just like staying with him when she's like, pissed off with him and she doesn't think that he's right for him, she goes off and finds a job and then starts studying at university, and she's just like, no, I'm sticking up for myself, I don't need a man. And it was just so powerful, and I loved it. And also I loved Kai as well, like his whole journey, so beautiful. And it was own voices as well because Helen Huang has autism herself, and it was just so beautiful and I loved it. I also recommend The Kiss Quotient by the same author and set in the same world, and follows Kai's cousin. Another really good romance. And The Smut also. Yes. The next book I want to talk about was Emergency Contact by Miriam H.K. Choi. Definitely a new favourite, and I've talked about this so much, so if you haven't heard me talk about this, like literally where have you been? This follows our two main characters, Penny, who is in her first year of university, and Sam, who is a baker and in his early 20s. One day Penny sees Sam having an anxiety attack on the side of the road, and they'd only met once before because Sam is good friends with Penny's roommate, and she saves him and she goes, look, I'll give you my number other, and so whenever this has happened again, you can text me and I'll come help you, because he's like embarrassed and like didn't want anyone to see him like this. So they kind of become each other's emergency contact and constantly are texting each other, and the relationship that develops is so beautiful and so realistic. And what I loved about this book so much is that these characters were both so cynical, but I like felt seen, because life is not sunshine and rainbows, and watching them like fall in love with each other, and it's not like they're both like really happy, lovely, perfect people. They're like quite judgmental and quite rude. It was just so beautiful, and I don't know why people hate this book so much. People are like, oh yeah, it's got heaps of girl hating or blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't think it has girl hating, I think it has people hating. I don't know, I just found the characters to be super realistic and I just loved it so much, and you would have to pry my 5-star rating from my cold dead hands, because this is just perfect, and I cannot wait to read the rest of Mary H.K. Choi's works. Again, she's going to be another auto by author for me, and I love it so much. The next book I want to talk about isn't necessarily like an all-time favorite, like amazing book, but a book that I found really interesting that I read in 2020, and that's Night Film by Marisha Pessl. This is like a thriller slash horror book, and it's told in mixed media format. So like we've got the actual story, but then we've also got like stuff like this as well, which is like web pages. So basically we follow a journalist who is obsessed with this cult horror movie director who has had a lot of bad shit happen to him. One night we discovered that the movie director's 23-year-old daughter has killed herself, and so our journalist character reopens this investigation, and he also finds like 2 other people to help him on his journey, and one is like a drug dealer, ex-junkie, and another one is an aspiring actress, and they all kind of have links to this movie director. So basically it just has a lot of really fun like occult themes. It has themes of obsession. It just takes us on this really crazy, unpredictable journey, and it was really scary as well. Like it actually scared me, and I couldn't read it at nighttime. I don't know, I have like a really big interest in like the shit that happens on like movie sets, and like the really bad shit that happens like behind the scenes. So I just found this really interesting and a really fun thriller, and I don't think I will ever read anything like it, and I've never read anything like it before, so absolutely loved it. The next book I want to talk about that I read in 2020 is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This is a book set in Nigeria. It is a really weird, fun thriller about a girl whose sister literally kills all her boyfriends. Her sister is like considered so beautiful and so stunning, and so she always has a boyfriend, and that boyfriend always ends up dead, and our main character always has to go and help her like fix the situation or like bury the body or whatever. But all of this changes when the doctor that our main character is in love with meets her sister and falls in love with her. Our main character is just really worried for the both of them. It was such a like intense but like short, fast read, and just like really good, and it had so many greater themes, like the privilege that people have when they're beautiful. Our main character's sister got away with so much purely just because she was so stunning, like literally including murder. Like she got away with all of that stuff, and also like how dumb men are is a big theme, which I love, and also like the importance of family and what family bonds can do to you. So this book was just really short and really fun, but like had so much to unpack, and I really recommend it for like a good thriller, because again it's another book that I have never read anything like it before, and I just found it really interesting, and I can't wait to read more of this author. The writing style was also incredible as well. Like there were so many good passages, and the characters really frustrated me, but in like such a good way. I really love it when characters like evoke this really big emotion. So yeah, nothing but good things to say about this one. Absolutely loved it. And the last book that I want to talk about that I read in 2020 is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This kind of started my romance obsession and started my obsession with Talia Hibbert as well. Basically, our main character Chloe Brown has a chronic illness, and she feels like she's not living her life properly, and she feels like she is being completely taken over by her illness and the chronic pain that she has. And it isn't until she meets her superintendent that she decides that she is going to get out there and get a life which is not being hindered by the pain that she feels every single day. So it's like an enemies to lovers storyline. They are like so obsessed with each other at the beginning, and how much they like dislike each other, and so when their hatred turns to love, it's just so satisfying to watch. Chloe and Red were just such amazing characters as well, and I just really loved how the relationship progressed. Their witty banter is like no other couple that I've ever seen before. So Talia Hibbert is an expert at that, and I know that because I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and it was also so good. Really good for a fun beginner romance. I absolutely love this, and I know I'm not in the minority here. Like, I know that everyone talks about this book and how much they love it, so I probably won't talk about it for much longer because you guys, if you've been on booktube, you probably know this already. So those are 10 of the books that I feel like made the biggest impact on me in 2020, or the ones that I love the most, or just the ones that I really wanted to talk about in this like end of year wrap up video. Thank you so much for watching. I know that I didn't go super in depth for some of these, but a lot of them I've talked about before in previous videos on my channel or in wrap ups or vlogs or something like that, so I hope you don't mind that. I just wanted to make a quick little end of year video. Please let me know what your favorite books of 2020 were. I'm super interested and I love getting new recommendations. And also keep your eye out for the opposite of this video, so my worst books or most disappointing books in 2020, because that video will be coming soon and I reckon I will have a lot more fun ripping books to shreds. Sorry for the negative energies, but I just haven't done it like ever on this channel, so I'm excited. So yeah, again, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you soon in another video. Bye.
But she said, Cindy, don't cry.